Hi everyone, we're here in the financial district in New York City today at BNY Mellon. We are very pleased to be launching a report that we put together today with BNY Mellon and UN Foundation, which is my organization. I'm Ilse Melngailis. I'm Senior Director for the Business Council for the UN and on the Global Partnerships. And I'm very pleased to be here with two dynamic women. Heidi Dubois, to my left, is the Global Head of Philanthropy and Corporate Social Responsibility at BNY Mellon. And Mary Ellen Iskandarian is the President and CEO of Women World Banking. So welcome, and let's get started. So Heidi, today we launched the report today, Powering Potential, which is about increasing women's access to financial services. So why this report? What are its key findings, and what is the call to action that you hope to ignite today?
We're all really excited to be here today to launch this report, as you say, called Powering Potential. And what Powering Potential does is explore the tremendous market and development opportunities associated with expanded access to financial products and services by women. And what we discovered through our research is that there is a $330 billion annual revenue opportunity associated with this expansion of access. In terms of how we get there, how do we unlock that? There are supply side factors that are contributing to the lack of access, as well as structural and social barriers for women. On the supply side, we think there's a lot companies can do to help advance the ball. One of those is better data. Companies can collect gender disaggregated data on the use of their financial products and services to give them that insight and how to move beyond gender-neutral products and services to products and services that are women-centric or actually gender-inclusive. On the structural and social barriers, we know that the public and social sectors have a lot to offer in partnership with the private sector to get us to realize the economic potential of women.
Super, great, thank you. And Mary Ellen, Women's World Banking is probably the world's most famous microfinance organization. Today it's much more than that. So just quickly tell us about that, and why is access to capital and financial services so important and so catalytic for women? And related to that, if you want to share any thoughts about why the UN is important to driving that change, that would be great. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Ilse, and thank you so much, Heidi, for including Women's World Banking in this exciting launch. Women's World Banking did start its history about 40 years ago. It's supporting women-focused microfinance institutions. But particularly as digital technology became so important and such an exciting development in the direct delivery of financial products and services around the world, the partners we're now working with have really proliferated, and we're now speaking and working very closely with commercial banks, insurance companies, lots of telcos, retailers. The playing field has really expanded in an exciting way, and it's only good news for women, and the kind of economic opportunity that the report highlights, I think, will be very, very interesting for those players. One thing that I would absolutely call out and applaud the UN effort for so far is that the SDGs have really brought together partners and conversations that we never would have had, or if we had them, they might have been like bilateral between Women's World Banking and an individual organization, but that we're now seeing sort of three-way partnerships. We have a partnership, Women's World Banking has a partnership right now with the largest mobile money provider in Pakistan and Unilever, because the mobile money provider saw 15% of their clientele were women, very profitable clients working at the same volume, but a terrible customer acquisition problem. So Unilever has a nationwide distribution network of women-owned businesses that we're training as mobile money agents. So it's just a win-win for everybody. But who would have thought that you'd have an NGO, a telco, and a personal care products company partnering? And I think the SDGs and SDG 5 in particular has been so critical to bringing these partnerships together.
That's great. We hope so, and that's music to our ears. We're also seeing more and more business-to-business partnerships, which is really exciting and something that we hope that this report will catalyze. So, Heidi, Mary Ellen mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals. This report is anchored in SDG 5. So why did BNY Mellon take an interest in aligning this work with the SDGs and with the UN's broader mandate?
Sure. Well, as you know, we are a financial services company, and we really see access to financial services for women as one of those critical unlocks for achieving SDG 5 or gender equality. One important thing I think to know about women's access to financial services is that when women get on the path to financial health, they are more likely to invest in their family's education, health, and general well-being, and that has knock-on effects for other sustainable development goals. When women are financially empowered, poverty goes down, hunger goes down, education goes up. And as a financial services company, we saw this as an important step in the right direction to help support the Sustainable Development Goals. At BNY Mellon, we're really committed to this conversation. We want to be a part of it. And our current workforce is about 40% women, and we do actively support our women employees with development programs to help them advance. We also have a really active women's initiatives network with over 5,400 members globally. So SDG 5 is really a great sweet spot for us, important for the financial services industry and for global development more broadly.
Yeah, that's terrific. Okay, great, thank you. And so, Mary Ellen, we often hear about the need for much more than business as usual. So we like to call it business unusual, as in the UN. Right? but so women as beneficiaries is also an incredibly important motivating factor. So in addition to the ripple effect, I think everyone is motivated to also just achieve women's financial inclusion, to achieve equality and parity and equal opportunity for women. So beyond women as beneficiaries, what role do women play in the broader economic development in the countries that you work in, and as economic agents and in financing the transformative change that Heidi was talking about?
So I'm so pleased to hear you sort of thinking in terms other than beneficiary, because I think behavior, and particularly from financial service providers, particularly those locally in the countries that we're working in, isn't going to change until we see women as economic agents, as clients, and as the report amply proves, really a powerful untapped market. Women buy more insurance than men across the board at every level of socioeconomic level. So to not be seeing that as a powerful market for insurers to go after is just literally leaving money on the table. And so I think a report like this one that calls out that economic opportunity and allows us to start to reframe women as victims or as charity cases, but really having power of the purse, as we've often said, can start to unlock the huge growth potential that we know is underlying all of that economic financial opportunity. And I just would would add to that it's sort of one of the things that frustrates us most, because I feel like there's some kind of unconscious bias that's very often at stake, particularly in institutions that might be more male dominated, or more of the leadership are men. And what is it about this huge business opportunity that they're sort of blind to? And I think that's our job, is to really figure out what those unconscious biases are, that we can make that opportunity really plain to those who may not be seeing it today. And just the last thing I say that is always so hopeful to me and excites me so much is that all of the data we have now is not about a fixed pie or a zero-sum game.
Right.
We're talking about a much bigger pie that everybody can have a piece in.
Yes.
And I think that's what's so exciting about it: inclusive growth, inclusive business, inclusive finance.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that might be part of the answer to what you were saying in terms of the threats to the status quo and so forth. So one last little question, and then please share any other final points that you want to make. In terms of men and boys in this endeavor, maybe Mary Ellen, from your perspective, working a lot in the field, and Heidi being in the oldest U.S. financial institution with a very different vantage point. Are there any thoughts that you want to share about the role of that men and boys can play in this, and any other final thoughts? So, Mary Ellen, over to you first, and then Heidi, we close with you.
Well, as I said before, I do think making the point that this is not, if a woman succeeds or
Right.
a woman gains access, that a man has to lose
Right.
access. And if anything, we're starting to track in a lot of our work that, when more money comes into the household, when families are able to sort of breathe a little bit easier, you see the power dynamic shift, and not in
That's
a way
right.
that the woman takes more power, but that it's a more equal distribution of
Yeah.
power in the
Yeah.
household. She plays more of a role in decision making. She's usually more of a political actor in her community. There's some fascinating work around inclusive finance that includes both men and women, and women's political participation. So again, I think this is so much about virtuous circles, but the circle has to include men if we're really going to achieve all that we can from this new way of thinking about finance.
Great.
Yeah, and I think from our perspective, what we see is that what's good for women is good for everyone.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I'd really boil it down to that.
Yeah.
I think it's McKinsey's research that indicates if women participated fully in the global economy, we would have 28 trillion more in GDP, and that's great for everyone.
Exactly.
It's great
Yeah.
for boys, it's great for girls, it's great for men, and it's great for women.
Yeah.
So that really underlies our support for SDG 5.
Yeah. Super. Okay. Well, thank you both very, very much.